I am JV Srinivasa working as a assistant professor in CST department at Marri Laxman Reddy Institute of Technology and Management, Dundigal, Telangana. Today I will discuss about Java Servlet. What is in Java Servlet? So these are the course objectives and course outcomes. Have taken Java Servlet from third unit from my syllabus. These are the textbooks have referred. Today I will discuss about Java Servlet. What is in Java Servlet? Features of Java Servlet, Java Servlet container, Java Servlet architecture, Java Servlet architecture workflow. What is in CGI, Common Gateway Interfaces? Differences between servlets and CGI, life cycle of the servlet, and servlet real-time applications. Java Servlet. Java Servlet is a Java program that runs on a Java enabled web server or application server. It handles client request, process them, and generates responses dynamically. Servlets are backbone of many server-side Java applications due to their efficiency and scalability. Java Servlet features work on the server side, efficiently handle complex client requests, generate dynamic responses, provide better performance compared to older technologies like CGI, highly scalable in enterprise level web applications. Java servlets are executed in Java enabled servers only. It is the server side scripting. It accepts the requests from the client side and processes the request and sends the response back to the server. Java servlet container. First of all, what is in Java servlet container? What is the use of the container? Servlet container, also as servlet engine, is an integrated set of objects that provide a runtime environment for Java servlet components. It is a system that manages Java servlet components on top of the web server to handle the web client requests. Java Servlets container plays a very important role. It is responsible for handling important tasks like load balance, session management, and resource allocation. It makes sure that all the requests are processes efficiently under high traffic. The container distributes requests across multiple instances, which helps improve the system performance. Services provided by the servlet container. So these many of services are provided by the servlet container. These are network services, decode and encode MIME based messages, manage servlet container, resource management, security services, and session management. This is an Java servlet architecture. So this is an client side. This is an server side. Server side. Here client sends the request to the server. The web server accept this request and these requests are sent to the Java servlets. So client side, sorry, server side, we have the webs, we have the servlets. So after receiving the request, the servlets accept this request and process this request and finally sends the responses back to the server. This is the main use of the Java servlet. It obtains the request from the servers and process this request, and finally it sends response back to the server. So I already told you servlets are executed in server side only. This is an servlet program. This is an servlet program. So these servlets are executed in server side. So it obtained the request from this web server and process this request, and finally send the responses back to the server. The server sends the final response to the web web browser, that is an client. Execution of servlet basically involves 6 basic steps. The client sends the request to the web server. The web server receives that request. The web server passes the request to the corresponding servlet. The servlet processes the request and generates the responses in the form of output. The servlet sends the response back to the web server. The web server sends the response back to the client, and the client browser displays it on the screen. Simply, the client sends the request to the server. The server accepts the request. Client side, we have the servlets. Servlets obtain that request and process the request. It sends the response to the server. Server sends the final response to the client. Common Gateway Interfaces, CGI. What is an CGI? What is the main use of the CGI? CGI is actually an external application that is written by using any of the programming languages like C or C++, is responsible for processing the client request and generating the dynamic content. In CGI application, when a client make a request to access dynamic web pages, the web server performs the following operations. These are: it first locates the request web page, that is the required CGI application, using URL. It then creates a new process to service the client's request, invokes the CGI application within the process, and process the request information to the application, collects the responses from the CGI application, destroy the process, prepare the HTTP response, and sends it to the client. This is the CGI Common Gateway Interface diagram. So this is a client, this is a server. Server side we have CGI application. Here clients sends the request to the server. The server accept this request, request, and server side we have the CGI application. CGI obtain the request from the server side and process this request, and after processing this request, the response is sent back to the server. The server sends the final response to the client. So what is the difference between servlets and CGI? Compared to servlet, CGI, for for every request it creates a new process. See, this is for each request a new process will be created. That is the main difference between servlets and CGI. So it is an time consuming compared to Java servlets. The major differences of servlets and CGI: servlets are portable and inefficient. Sorry, servlets are portable and efficient compared to CGI. In servlet, sharing data is possible. Coming to CGI, the In CGI, sharing data is not possible. Servlets can directly communicate with the web servers. Coming to CGI, it cannot directly communicate with the web server. Servlets are less expensive than CGI. CGI is more expensive than servlets. Servlets can handle the cookies. CGI cannot handle the cookie. What is a cookie? A cookie is a small file of information which is received by the server, which can be stored into the client browser. Life cycle of the servlet. Okay, during the life cycle of the servlet, what are the methods? What are the methods it's followed, and what are the stages it has followed? We will discuss one by one. A servlet Java A servlet is a Java program that runs on a server to handle client requests and dynamic responses. Servlet lifecycle is entirely managed by the servlet container, which use the Jakarta or servlet. Servlet interfaces to manage servlet objects. States of the servlet lifecycle. So, start state, end state between loading the servlet, initialization of servlet, handling the request. This is the life cycle states of the servlet. Uh, so the life cycle consists of four main stages. These are first loading the servlet, initialization of servlet, handling client request, and destroy the servlet. I will go with first. I will go with loading the servlet. How to load the servlet? The first stage of the servlet lifecycle involves loading and initialization of the servlet. The servlet container performs the following operations. These are loading, initialization. Loading, the servlet container loads the servlet classes into the memory. Initialization, the container creates an instance of the servlet using the argument no argument constructor. When it is loaded during application startup, that is if configured in deployment descriptor on the first client request. Next, initialization of a servlet. After installation, the container initializes the servlet using init method. What is an init method? Init method is called once in the servlet lifecycle. It prepares the servlets to handle requests. Example, database connection setup. Called once, unlike service, which is called per request. Example, public void init throw servlet exception. So it follows the initialization of the code. Next, coming to handling request. How to handle the request? Once initialized, the servlet is ready to handle client requests. These are request response object and service method. First, coming to request and response methods, servlet request and servlet responses objects are created for each request. For HTTP servlet request and HTTP servlet response objects are created. The service method. Coming to the service method, the container calls service for each request, determining the HTTP request type, get, post, put, and delete. Deletes the request to appropriate methods do get and do post. Example, public void service servlet request servlet response through servlet exceptions IO exception. Destroying the servlet. When the servlet container decides to remove the servlet, it follows these steps which are listed below. These are allow active threads to complete, invoke the destroy method, release servlet instances. Coming to allow active threads to complete, the container ensures that all threads executing the service method complete their tasks. Coming to invoke the destroy method, the container calls destroy method to allow the servlet to release resources, for example, closing database connection, freezing memory. Release servlet instances. After the destroy method is executed, the servlet container releases all references to the servlet instance, making it eligible for garbage collection. Servlet lifecycle method. During the servlet lifecycle, it follows mainly three methods. These are init method, service method, and destroy method. Init method. Coming to init method, it calls only one time at the time of initialization. Next, service method, it handles multiple requests. Multiple requests, client requests, and sends the response to clients. Destroy method called only once in the during it calls only once during the life cycle of the servlet. Thank you.